Hello and welcome to the Formula Botanica Green Beauty Conversations podcast. My name is Gemma Perez and I am pleased to be your host. If you want to find out a little bit more about what we do at Formula Botanica, then head over to our website, formulabotanica.com, and check out our free sample class. This week, I'm interviewing Natasha Richardson from Forage Botanicals, and we talk all about the skincare and products that can help support you through your menstrual cycle. Enjoy. Hi, Natasha, and welcome to the Green Beauty Conversations podcast.
Hi, lovely to speak to you today.
I am so pleased that you agreed to be a guest on the podcast. We love having interesting women to interview and to hear all about their story. So for the benefit of our listeners, if you could just introduce yourself, explain what you do, and explain how Forage Botanicals was birthed.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously my name's Natasha and I'm trained as a herbalist, and I have a real passion for women's health, having had a history of period problems myself, namely period pain. I chose to really specialize in women's stuff throughout my career at university, and I ended up writing my dissertation on herbs during pregnancy. And so the company that I ended up founding was originally all about teaching people herbal medicine, but now it specifically focuses on menstrual well-being, because I realized that actually I'm more passionate about that subject probably than anything else. And I can bring the herbal medicine practice that I've learned over the years and the experience that I have with that into that arena. And so it's just a lovely marriage of two passions of mine, herbs and women's health.
Yeah. So I met you along with my colleague Catherine at the Stylist live event. I think it was about a month ago now, probably. And you had your wonderful stall set up there, and I bought some lovely peacetime tea. And my colleague Catherine had followed you on social media for a while, so was aware of Forage Botanicals and what you do. And she said that she followed a crowdfunding process that you undertook to raise funds for a new product. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the kind of products that you sell at Forage and why you crowdfunded, what you needed to get this new product off the ground, and what your experiences with crowdfunding were like.
Yeah, well, I make a range of products to help with common period problems and menstrual well-being. So it could be things like period pain. PMS is a big thing, passion of mine as well. And probably what I'll do next is do a remedy for really heavy periods. That's what kind of gleaned from Stylist Live, which is nice. And then I also have online things like an educational course that I run, which is completely online. And I have a team of herbalists that take patients for us as well, because I now just focus on products. And the last crowdfunding campaign that I did was for a product called Moontime Belly Balm, and it is a completely natural aromatherapy balm that's applied wherever you feel period pains. And yeah, the reviews that I've had have been brilliant. I've been really happy with it. The crowdfunding campaign was because I went into the business immediately after leaving university and never built up a savings capital for me to invest in the business. And so whenever I want to expand the business, I have to somehow magically accrue more money out of nowhere. And I thought, I'll look into this crowdfunding malarkey. Like all of my friends have been saying, oh, why don't you try crowdfunding? So I did loads of courses on it. And all these courses were like saying that you need to get investors lined up and you need to already have your contacts there so that when you go live, you are essentially designing when people will give you the money. And I was like, gosh, I don't have that. And isn't that sort of the antithesis of crowdfunding? Like, it's like, yeah, I was just being told the exact opposite of what you come to believe as just your average Joe about what crowdfunding means. So I did a few courses and spent probably a year thinking I'd like to do crowdfunding at some point, but maybe that's not what I can do right now. And It seemed like it was more that it was something I would do later when I had contacts, and it would be almost like a PR marketing stunt more than because of just wanting the money. And so, yeah, I sat on it for ages thinking, oh, it just doesn't seem like it's for me and I'm not going to do it. I'll wait. Until, I don't know why, but I changed my mind. That I would do it. I went in for a relatively small amount, considering most crowdfunding campaigns. I went in for I was asking for £1,500.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that was what I had calculated I was going to need to buy stock that I would need, have it tested, and have labels made. And then I doubled it.
Oh, wow.
I was just like, okay, and then if I want any sort of budget for if things go wrong, or I need to, or like literally just doing some PR marketing stuff, then I'm going to need at least double whatever I need for the physical product. So yeah, 1,500 was double what I needed for the actual physical thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was quite interesting when I was chatting to you at Stylist was that you said that everything that they told you to do, you didn't do, and you still managed to have a successful crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah. So they said, get your investors lined up. I didn't have that because I was going to actually crowdfund, where I relied on members of the public to give money. And they also said that you should offer perks, essentially freebies or products which are given to people for less than their usual retail value.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that doesn't actually make any sense to me, because then I'm going to be making a loss on those products, and I wouldn't be able to, the money that I would then get in donations would be less than I actually wanted.
Yes.
And it was going to be making loads of work for myself. I was going to have to make the new product that I was crowdfunding for and all of the products that people had bought.
Yeah.
So for me, being the only person in my business, I was just like, well, that just doesn't, how does that ever work? Like, yeah. So I actually overcharged for all of my perks. So what I did was I took products that I already was selling on my website, and I think I added like £10 to each one, something like that. So that whenever somebody was buying a perk, rather than just leaving a bit of money, they were definitely going to be adding £10 donation on top. So, but I was very open about that. I said on the crowdfunding page, the perks that you buy here are more expensive than you'll see on my website because I'm including a donation.
Yeah. It's an interesting way of going about it. And so you were successful in the crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, I think it actually got up to 112%.
Ah, okay.
Over what I'd asked for.
Yeah, so you were able to successfully launch your, is it Moontime Belly Balm?
Yeah.
What a fabulous name. What an absolutely fabulous name. Okay, so when I was at Stylist and I saw you, you had a fair few products for sale, I think. So you had the bath salts, you had the Moontime Belly Balm, I think was there. Then the teas. So I bought the Peacetime tea, which is just lovely.
Right.
It's one of my favourite things that I bought at Stylist. So do you have plans to like expand your range, or do you want to do more things?
So the other two things that I sell at the moment is something called Goddess Drops, which are taken on the tongue each day, a bit like a flower remedy or rescue remedy. People are familiar with those terms. And it's for tuning into your sort of sacred feminine energies, working more on an emotional level. And the last thing that I've got at the moment is a smoothie powder, and you can also add it into like a hot milk to make it into like a chai as well. That helps people if they're really stressed and sort of tired and wired. But what I want to do next, which is why these events are so great, is when you're missing something, people will ask you all day long, have you got something for such and such? And the thing that came up from Stylist was heavy bleeds. People were like, do you have anything for heavy periods? That's what I'll work on next. I did an event last year that made me very aware that I needed something for period pain, hence the Moontime Belly Balm.
Yeah. Sorry, you did mention that in the beginning, that you wanted to work on something, the heavy periods. And indeed, it's why I came to your stall, because I think I had a chat about my own experiences with that. So you are a menstrual well-being expert, and I just wanted to chat a little bit more about what that means and how you help women on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Well, for a long time, my focus was on helping women one-to-one using my herbal well-being packages.
Yeah.
So they were, and still are, 3.5 months long. And I'd be working one-to-one with somebody, coaching them on their diet, lifestyle, and prescribing them custom-made herbal remedies that I would send in the post to them. And we would do this all by Skype. So it's really easy to access for everyone. But as much as I love doing that, and as rewarding as that is, I find it more rewarding to try and help as many people as possible in a short space of time. And so that's why now I focus on the products and have other herbalists that take patients. And it is largely about educating people, understanding how lifestyle and diet links into their experience of their periods, and how they can use natural remedies and herbs as a catalyst to being better with those kind of things. And usually I end up seeing people with like endometriosis and PCOS in my own practice. But when people come to me for products that I'm selling, it's more simpler ailments like period pain, PMS, heavy periods, light flow. Yeah, a variety of problems they've specifically been told isn't an illness.
Yeah.
And have been given no way of dealing with them.
Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting point to make, because I think that when you speak with groups of women, often issues with their menstrual cycle and periods come up. And often they will say, well, I went to the doctor and I was told that's just the way it is. And that certainly was my experience. I mean, do you see a lot of women like with those sorts of issues and they just kind of suffer on until they find someone like you, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I don't see enough of them as far as I'm concerned. Like, I feel that it's actually a fairly common problem. And when you are coming from a perspective of having gone to your GP and they are the end point for you in terms of communicating about your health, and they say, well, there's nothing that can be done, then it's very easy to just be like, oh, then there's nothing in the world that could possibly exist to help with this problem. When actually what a GP is saying is there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people hear that and just shut down and don't continue to look for answers.
Yeah, and just kind of carry on with the way things were. And I suppose, well, my own experience was that obviously the GP just said, you know, that's the way it is. And there was no signposting or anything to somewhere else that you might be able to go. Because obviously if it's not within their, I don't know, belief system about herbalism or aromatherapy or reflexology or whatever other kind of different sort of treatment that you might seek out, it was just sort of, you know, that's the end of that. And it wasn't until, you know, I was looking for things specifically that, you know, I came across people that might have a different opinion on those sorts of things. And then one of them, happily, I met in person, which was you.
I really want to take these products and make them so mainstream that you can't avoid them, and everyone is aware that there are other options when it comes to period pain, for instance.
I think that is it's such a good idea, because I think that we're just taught to sort of get up and carry on. And we're not always aware that some people have like crippling, agonizing pain. You know, I was speaking to a friend of mine and she said that her pain was so bad. She's not based in the UK, she's based somewhere else, but they hooked her up to a machine to figure out why her pain was so bad. And some of the pain scales, I'm not sure exactly how it works scientifically, but was worse than contractions during labor that she was feeling every month. You know, she would pass out from the pain regularly. And, you know, the answer was just like, well, you just have to have stronger painkillers.
Yeah. I mean, it can be so debilitating, and sometimes painkillers don't work. So my experience of pain with pain was that painkillers didn't work on me, not the average ones you could get in the shops anyway. And I know people who have endometriosis where even codeine doesn't work. Yeah, it's hardcore stuff. And you don't necessarily want to be taking them every month either. So, that comes into play as well.
Yeah, I guess that's the other side, isn't it? Where people are like, yeah, I don't want to be taking really, really strong painkillers that make me feel terrible, for like a week, over a month, or in the run up to that week. Sometimes people get pain in the run up. It's for me to see that there were, your range of products for however I might be feeling in the month was really, really enlightening. And just, it made me feel like there was someone that has my back with the things that I'm experiencing.
Yeah, I want the products that I make to really help people feel that there is options, because I found that even from my own experience, knowing that there was something that could get rid of my pain levels, even though it was something that I didn't actually want to take that much, was enough for me to be alleviated of so much anxiety of like, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen on top of like a birthday? Am I going to have to cancel? Shall I take these painkillers with me? Shall I not? Like, it alleviated so much anxiety mentally that it actually helped me with my perception of my period pain.
That's really interesting, because I don't think that people understand the anxiety associated with these sorts of things. Things like heavy flow, where I've been the same, like I might have to cancel that event because it means me being out and it's going to be too much. And how many things should I carry with me? Some days I've had to take an entire rucksack of stuff with me out. And there is definitely an anxiety attached to that.
It takes quite a lot of prep. It's like getting ready for some sort of expedition, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously in the wider world, we don't think about that because, well, it's not talked about as much, I think. There's still quite a lot of taboo around periods and period shaming and, it's not an illness and, you should just get on with it. I don't know if you saw recently, there was this blogger, what's her name? Grace Victory. I don't know if you follow her.
Oh, no.
And she posted this picture of her period came unexpectedly during the night and had gone everywhere, and she'd taken a picture of it and had said what she was experiencing, and she had loads of people unfollow her because they thought it was something that she shouldn't be discussing.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to find that.
Yeah, go and have a look at it. I mean, it was in, I can't remember, and don't quote me on this, if it was in Glamour. Someone did a follow-up with her because she's quite a prolific blogger about body image, about periods, about all sorts of things. Her name's Grace Victory. And I was absolutely shocked by how some people had reacted to her posting that and the comments that they'd left her.
Wow, it's really surprising. I mean, I find that actually for a lot of these issues now, we're our own worst enemies. It's the women who are the most sexist and the most judgmental about these things. We've basically internalized hundreds of years of patriarchy, and now we just like do it for ourselves so the boys don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, sometimes there is an element of that, I suppose. That most of her followers are women. It was women that were feeling very, very uncomfortable about that, about talking about it, about it being so kind of in the public eye, if you know what I mean. Like, why would she post something so private?
Yeah, I think it's almost more of a trigger point for us as the women who experience it than it is for the guys.
It can be. I guess obviously that's, there are obviously men who are incredibly uncomfortable about it as well and don't want to talk about it. But I suppose I just hadn't expected the reaction to be so strong, and the perception that it was disgusting for her to be sharing that sort of thing and to talk about her problems with her period. I think, that for many people was really challenging. And then I come to Stylist Live and you have a whole stand on display talking about periods. Yeah. So I thought that was it was just really nice to see something like that out in the open with all these different types of products. And obviously you had teas and you had salts that you could use and obviously your balm. So for me, it just presented a variety of options, and they were all on display, openly for people to come and, have a look at and have a try.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like, I don't know. I seem to remember when I was younger, I initially went to the shops to get like my initial pack of condoms. I think I had to like go to the counter and ask for them, and then they were like given to me in some sort of like secret, discreet packaging. I feel like that's what happens for most women with their periods as well. But it's almost like it's an internalized secrecy that we don't, walk back from the shops with our sanitary pads in our arms, and we do choose to keep them in a bag still, and secretly slip them to friends when they've like come on their period at work, rather than be like, yeah, sure, here's your tampon.
I know you cannot do that. I mean, one of the interesting things at Stylist was that all of the tampons and pads were free. Did you see that in the bathrooms?
That's good. I didn't go to the normal bathrooms because I was so pregnant. I couldn't excuse. I was like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah. So I thought that was really, really nice, because obviously in most places you still have to pay for it if you don't have it. Yeah, and I think that they were obviously also trying to highlight issues that we've had in the UK with period poverty, where people are not able to afford and have access to sanitary towels or tampons.
Yeah, definitely. I think like one of the biggest things that I want to try and redress with the company as a whole is just how negative we all are about periods, and all of our cultural information that we hand down to each other is all negative about periods, and the education that we get is all negative. And it's not just periods, it's every single female experience. Labor is perceived to going to be just a terrible thing, having children is going to be terrible, and then going through menopause is going to be terrible. And I just want to reframe that and create products that are enjoyable to use. They're not just in white medical packaging and you just like shove them down your throat and hope for the best. I want them to be things where people actually look forward to using them.
Yeah, I think there is something in that, isn't it? Because I was speaking to my colleague the other day about this face balm I was using, and I talked about the ritual of using it, because it came with this little spoon and this little glove thing. And there is something incredibly nice about the experience of opening that package. And I hadn't really thought about it that much until you just mentioned it, but everything is quite medicalized almost when it comes to periods. Like you say, everything is sort of bland and clinical. To having to use products that are just beautifully designed and comforting, I think there is something definitely to be said for that and how we feel about ourselves during specific times of the month, especially when everything can be perceived as very negative. And, when people tell you, the curse is happening. And I certainly think it's going to be interesting to see how we can develop education for girls so that they're not perceiving it like that all the time.
Yeah, that they can see that there are good things and bad things about all of these experiences, and to be able to be open about both. Because I'm finding that in pregnancy, there is a big movement for honesty in pregnancy, and actually it's swung a little bit too far. And so now like honesty in pregnancy means just being terribly negative about the whole thing, to the extent that now when I go to like antenatal courses and things, I feel like I need to be quiet and not share how I'm feeling about stuff, because I feel really positive and excited about it, and everyone else is like, it's gonna be terrible.
I think that definitely plays into how your experience is going to be when everyone is telling you that.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you actually equate honesty to negativity, then you are just saying that there's only one narrative available here, and it's crap.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, it's something that I want to avoid with my daughters, definitely, about periods, because certainly when I was growing up, it wasn't really talked about that much. It was just that you're going to get it at some point, and, don't wish it upon yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Instead of, I was intensely curious about what it was going to be like. And I think that wasn't really discussed. When I raised it, it was more like, well, don't wish it upon yourself. you don't want it to start early, and you don't want this to happen, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I would say that for me, like the positive parts of my period, the actual bleed, was that it gave me time alone to rest and recuperate my energy stores each month and have time to like reflect on life. But obviously, I think there's a other side of the menstrual cycle, which is ovulation, which is literally everything that everyone would class as positive. It's outgoing, it's confident, it's sexy, it's, and we don't get taught about ovulation at all.
No, it's not really discussed, that part of it. And how you're going to be feeling over the month rather than just in, say, the week before your period or during your period.
Yeah.
When you're likely to feel awful.
And it means that it's really common for adult women to use the term period and menstrual cycle incorrectly.
Oh, interesting.
If I ask someone how long their menstrual cycle is, sometimes they'll say 5 days. And I'm like, okay, you mean you bleed, don't you? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So even the terminology can get confused sometimes.
Yeah, because everybody just equates any of those terms to meaning when you're bleeding.
Mm-hmm. I went a while ago, I think I might have mentioned this to you at Stylist. I went on a menstrual cycle awareness course with the Red School. And that was so educational in terms of getting you to think about the entire menstrual cycle and how long your cycle might be and what you might be feeling, and how to not necessarily plan your life around it, but have an understanding that there might be certain times when you don't feel like doing things. And that's okay. Because I remember someone saying to me, oh, you're not consistent. Like sometimes you want to do, yoga and things like that. And other times you want to cycle around London like a crazy person. And it did make me think, oh yeah, God, I should actually stick to one thing and be consistent. And at that course, they made me realize that there's a reason why you want to do things like that at specific times in the month.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Oh my gosh, I had to read about these things in books, and I've taken that information and kind of combined it with my herbal training and I've made like an online course as well. It's a 4-week-long thing and teaches you how to chart, and it teaches you, to understand there are 4 phases of the cycle, that they all have their pros and cons, and that if you understand that, you can potentially like really incredibly improve your life by planning things in sync with it, but also being able to understand and be quite compassionate towards yourself when you plan things on a day where it's probably not going to be that easy, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I think it did taught me massive. One of the things I mainly took away from it was just to be kind to yourself during those times that you are not feeling like socializing, or you don't want to go to a big birthday party or something like that. There's where you just need to go and just have a rest and go and crawl under the duvet and just relax for a couple of days.
Yeah, because there's the study of pain, physical pain. There's this concept of primary and secondary pain, and primary pain is the pain you physically feel, and secondary pain is when you get upset about that initial pain to the extent that you make the initial pain worse. And I think that is what happens with women in their periods and their cycles, is that on those days where maybe they had a party right in the middle of their premenstrual phase and they really don't want to go, and then you force yourself to go and you're terribly unsociable and it doesn't work well for you, and you just think, why am I so rubbish at social occasions? Like, could have just been able to isolate that to just the primary problem of not wanting to go, and just accept that if you do go, you're not going to be happy with your performance, almost like social performance.
Yeah, definitely. There's something to be said for like thinking that you're crap at socializing rather than you might struggle with socializing just on a few days.
Yeah, totally.
And I think we really easily pigeonhole ourselves into these little categories of I'm rubbish at this and I'm rubbish at that, when actually it is literally just there might be days that are more challenging for you. Yeah. So I think this has been a really, really interesting conversation, and I hope that everyone has enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Natasha. I really, really appreciate it.
No, it's been a pleasure. I've been talking about periods all day long every day.
Me too. You can obviously find the link to Forage Botanicals and all of their social media handles in the show notes to this episode. Bye, Natasha.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to listen. And I hope you felt that the conversation that Natasha and I had was useful. As usual, if you're interested in contributing and having an impact on the global green beauty movement, then join us over on social media at Formula Botanica on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also find us in the Skincare Entrepreneur Mastermind group on Facebook, where we regularly share live feeds and interesting discussion topics. And we would love to have you join us, so please come and find us. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.